Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to the Universal Temple for the Sun, Planet, Moon, and Stars. I'll be your Lord of Hosts, Lord Messiah. And today we're going into revocation of election. What is revocation of election? Okay, let's jump straight into it. We know revoke, root word of revocation is to revoke. And election means that which was elected. So guess what? There was an election that took place for us to have to so-called pay taxes. But guess what, y'all? You don't have to pay taxes. Did you know that? Oh. And let's get into this. Let's see what this is saying. So now, just to let y'all know, a lot of this up top is kind of saying the same thing down at the bottom. So instead of me going through like 3 whole pages of all of this, I'm going to skip down to the bottom here where they have the template for the revocation of election. So it says here, stipulation of facts established by the national government for America, nationals such as, and then maybe that's where you put your organization there. Revocation of election. Okay, so now I'm gonna play this off here. Okay, yeah. So okay, yeah, this is a good point because okay, I'll do that. See, so up top it breaks down everything they about to put in this template right here. See this right here. This is the template. Let it be established by this testimony, the express purpose of revocation of election. So then you put, saying, I, Lord Messiah Allah, is a sovereign American national and became so by birth in one of the 50 states of the Union, birth or by both parents who were born in the 50 states of the Union, or naturalization. So we know we didn't necessarily, so-called black people in America didn't necessarily go through naturalization like so-called foreign people do when they come to this country. They take a test, they learn all the American presidents, how many stars in the flag, what's the national anthem, what's the colors of the flag, all that good stuff, and they pass a test and to declare their nationalization, meaning they have consciousness and history and knowledge of this country that they're in, and they pledge allegiance to Constitution and all that good stuff, and and through that they actually get rights to the Constitution. So you'd be like, yo, how come foreign people get here and they be getting rights and all of that, and we've been here in all this long time, and because we're under certain contracts, and these contracts we have to revoke. So this is one example, such as us being under taxes, paying taxes, that can be revoked. So I'm gonna play the breakdown, and then I'm gonna go to this template and show basically it's like a couple of places where you have to put your name. All these blank spaces here where it's blacked out, that's where you put your name and information. You know what I'm saying? This part here is for the notary at the bottom and whatnot. So let's go back through this. So yeah, and this, as you can see, this is a document that they actually drew up that people can use to say like, yo, listen, I don't want to pay taxes anymore. I'm revoking the election, revocation of election. You're revoking the election that was done for people to pay taxes. You're revoking that, and that's, you have a right to do so. And this is like there. Now, what I did was I took their document, copy paste whatever, use the template, use their basic information. See, this is what we got to understand too about the restructuring of the contract, and which basically means that it now makes it a new contract by you, because what you do is you basically take their, and they even tell you in some documentation, you don't have to use this exact form, but basically you can reiterate the form or make the form different, but you have to have the basic information that they're asking for. So I basically put those, stuff where they got the stuff in there, whatever. I use their basic information, but also added other extra information in there, some fiat, some, personal information, this, that, and third, some stuff from my declaration, from my will, my trust, and that. Spice it all up to let them know who I am and what I'm representing, and so forth, and blah blah blah. So I'm gonna read it from here, and and I'm gonna come back.
Stipulation of facts established by the national government. For American nationals such as revocation of election. All federal income taxation statutes and regulations apply only within the territorial jurisdiction of the District of Columbia, the seat of the national government, also known as the statutory United States, unless directly stated otherwise. B. Sovereign American nationals are not subject to the statutes and regulations, particularly Title 26, as they are limited in their geographical and legislative application to the District of Columbia, as sovereigns are the author and source of the law according to the United States Supreme Court in Yickwa v. Hopkins, 118 U.S. 356, 1886. Revocation of election established by the U.S. Congress. 6. Public record of revocation of election per 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G4A, affidavit is copyrighted intellectual property.
Right. So you heard that, right? They said, see how their form is copyrighted intellectual property. So therefore, even when you change one word in a sentence or whatever, then it's considered no longer plagiarism. So technically, when you take the forms, you want to, like I say, put the basic information that they ask for in the form, but you also want to add extra stuff to it, so that way it's no longer plagiarism, and it will be a writ or a declaration in lieu of the revocation of election. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be a writ in lieu of their, form that they have for the revocation of election. So it is the form, but it's a writ in lieu of. So I turned the form into a writ. You know what I mean? But also adding my other extra information and so forth and so forth. You know what I mean? So now it becomes a writ. You know what I mean? So let's continue.
C. The statutory definition of person used in statutes within the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 currently in use today in the territorial jurisdiction of the District of Columbia do not include or make reference to American nationals as a result of the territorial limitations placed against the national government per the Constitution.
Right. So in other words, people that are considered persons are people that reside within the District of Columbia. So you got to understand a lot of the stuff, these bylaws and stuff that people be going according to is coming from the District of Columbia. But we're not residents, nor do we reside within the District of Columbia. So that's its own specific district. And also understand it's not even a state, it's a district. But what kind of district? It's a political district where they make up a lot of laws and shit like that. And then these laws get distributed through the land by way of plebiscites and agreement and, political agendas and so forth and so forth. So, you know what I mean? So when it says here, it says, and also referring to American nationals. So that's why I say we're not U.S. citizens. We would be more so American nationals. You know what I'm saying? Nationals of the land America, not citizens of the corporation United States. You know what I mean? That's the difference. So therefore, as an American national or a living being, you're saying I'm not subject to the, the straw man, all capital letter name and the social security number and the birth certificate and all that good stuff. And basically you're kind of like rescinding the contract. You know what I'm saying? Rescinding the contract. So such as that, all right. I'm gonna let this play. I ain't gonna
Constitution. Such statutory words or phrases that illustrate this fact are highlighted in part as follows. 1. Person defined at 26 U.S.C. Section 7701, A1, only referencing statutory legal fictions. 2. U.S. person defined at 26 U.S.C. Section 7701, A30, only referencing statutory legal fictions. 3. Taxpayer defined at 26 U.S.C. Section 7701, A14, references any person subject to.
Right. So if a person is defined as referring to statutory legal fiction, like I said, the straw man, the all capital letter name, that's called a legal fiction, which they try to get you to say you are. That's why the police always, the first thing the police ask you for, let me see some ID. They want you to pull out that state identification where the state identifies you as their property. Oh, we know you as this all capital letter name. Okay. And you pulled out your pocket and said that's who you are. Okay. So you agreed to contract as property of the state via this state ID card. You know what I'm saying? So that's how they trap you into things. You know what I'm saying? And then once you consider yourself, so now in this sense, they're saying, so once you consider yourself a person, then a taxpayer is defined as, at 26 USC 7701A 14, reference any person subject to. So if a person is a legal fiction and the legal fiction is paying taxes and we're referring to ourselves as the person, then we are subject to pay taxes as a taxpayer. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole science. So now they're about to get into U.S. citizen, and that's why I say they trap you with the term U.S. citizen. On all the applications, they ask you, are you a citizen of the U.S.? And we check off yes. But notice they be also having that other box that says other. You can check other and put U.S. and put not U.S. national, put American national. You know what I mean? Or foreign national. You know what I mean? Showing that you're foreign to the U.S., but you still endow those same rights. So don't think like, oh, if I don't say I'm a citizen, I'm not going to get the benefits. No, you just put a different, because they give you options. It don't say if you put one of these other options, you're not going to get the benefit. No, just put one of the other options. You know what I'm saying? Or if it don't say exactly how you define yourself, put other, and then they usually have a little line for you to put how you define yourself. So that's how you do that. That's how you restructure the contract. Because if you just check the little box they want you to check, then you putting yourself in that box. But if you check other and then create your own box, isn't that a better stance? That means that you're foreign and you're standing on your own, more so than saying, oh, I'm a U.S. citizen. Yeah, I'm part of this jurisdiction. No, that's how they trap you. So you got to be careful and understand these terminologies.
2. 4. U.S. citizen defined at 8 U.S.C. Section 1401, A1, only referencing a statutory legal fiction that was legislatively born in the District of Columbia and are property of the national government, and thus under the dominion or control of the national government within its limited geographical and legislative jurisdiction. This is clearly illustrated in 3 CAM Jur 2D Section 2689 for U.S. citizens. D. As a result of the United States Supreme Court decision in United States v. Cooper Corporation, 312 U.S. 600, 1941, states that the term person does not include the sovereign, and that statutes not employing the phrase are ordinarily construed to exclude it, the sovereign.
Right. So that's why I was telling people, brothers be saying, yo, we sovereign. And I'm like, bro, everybody here got a state ID in their pocket. Stop fronting, pull it out right now. And when you pull it out, that shows right there, you're not sovereign. Because in order to have that, you defined yourself as a U.S. citizen, not an American national. There's a difference. So understand that. And also, a lot of times we be afraid to let the government know that we know how to define ourselves in another way other than how they taught us to define ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We be scared to speak up for ourselves. Like, fuck all that shit, man. Speak up. Come on, all right, bro. All right, partner.
The statutory term non-resident alien individual obtusely defined at 26 U.S.C. Section 7701, B1b, was purposely stated in vague terms as it addresses sovereign American nationals as the target of that definition without reference to the term sovereign specifically.
Right. So it just said non-resident alien individual. So that's another thing. When it says other, you can put yourself as a non-resident alien, meaning you're foreign individual. You know what I'm saying? And now individual also means person, you know what I'm saying? But however, it says that you're a non-residential, foreign, alien, foreign person. So you may be considered a person, but not under their jurisdiction, not under the U.S. jurisdiction, where they consider you the type of person that pays taxes. You know what I'm saying? So you could be the type of person that does not pay taxes, because you're non-residential, meaning you're not a resident of the said, jurisdiction. You know what I mean? So it's all about how you define yourself. You know what I mean? And you got to be very careful and specific. So like as it says here, it says that term was purposely stated in vague terms as it addresses sovereign American nationals. So in other words, they would consider it a vague term. But like I said, if you break it down, non-residential, alien, meaning foreign, individual or person, that's another way of saying that you're a sovereign American national, meaning you're a non-resident, so you're not that's what makes you sovereign. Alien individuals, so you're alien of the U.S. because you're American, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? An American national, and your nation, or one that you're an individual, a part to, or a citizen of, quote unquote, would be the American nation as a sovereign and not a sovereign citizen. Let's not get it twisted, y'all, because I don't be going into that old sovereign citizen stuff. But I said, quote unquote, citizen as how they would treat a citizen, like as a resident of their, jurisdiction. You would more so be a resident of the land America, not the corporation United States. So that's what I'm trying to differentiate.
Specifically, E. The implementing regulation 26 CFR section 1.871-1A makes reference that non-resident alien individuals can only be liable for the statutory laws of the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia if they choose to work for the national government. Therefore, only federal workers derive income that is effectively connected with the conduct of a statutory trade or business within the District of Columbia. F. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution outlaws and prohibits slavery and involuntary servitude in the constitutional republic. It, however, does not outlaw voluntary indentured servitude. The national government has utilized sub silentio acts directed at American nationals to induce them, by prevailing social custom and lack of awareness of the facts established by law, to draw into their jurisdiction such American nationals.
Right. So in other words, they get you in court and they try to get you to swear in, go under their jurisdiction, do all these different ways to trap you into their jurisdiction, ask you your name, where you live, to try to state you up, say actually your name, to try to get personal jurisdiction or jurisdiction over the person, the one who's liable to pay taxes. So now they're able to fine you and give you all kind of charges, you know what I'm saying? Then they ask you where you live, so-called, to get what's called territorial jurisdiction over you. Now this happened within the township of such and such county or whatever, blah, 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 and all of that. So you're within their jurisdiction. So they try to say, well, you're within our jurisdiction. So you broke a law, a statute, a municipality, ordinance, code, regulation, whatever. So now we have to charge you or tax you. You know what I mean? And we have all rights to, because you just said that your name is such and such, you live at so-and-so, and, blah, blah, blah. So, you know what I mean? That's how they trap you into, that's how they get American nationals to be in a lack of unawareness, so that they can trap them into treating them as a U.S. citizen and basically coerce them into involuntary servitude and deny their constitutional rights of the republic. You know what I mean? For which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and all that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Liberty and justice for some. You know what I'm saying? And those some are either those who are just quote unquote part of the club, or those who are not in a lack of awareness and they do know what time it is, and they gonna go into court and state the facts, and they know the process and procedure and how to do it. Because that's how they also try to get you too, is you not knowing the procedure and how to do things. That's how they try to get you and shit. So anyway, you know what I mean? Oh, but also, like I said, the 13th Amendment says, but it does not outlaw involuntary servitude. You know what I'm saying? And indentured servitude. So you going to jail is just another form of indentured servitude. You gotta work off your debt to society, as they say, for a certain amount of time, however long you was sentenced, and then performing labor somewhere, and then they release you or whatever, and then you're free from the indentured servitude. So going to jail is indentured servitude. You know what I'm saying? So the fuck. They just try to use all these different fancy terms and all of that, so you don't know what it basically is. So that's why I be studying all this stuff, so I could take all these big fancy words and make that shit simple and plain. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, indentured servitude basically means yo ass going to jail. When you go to jail, you become an indentured servant. You know what I mean?
Nationals. 1. 26 CFR Section 1.871-1A reflects the deception by the use of a statutory election of a voluntary nature in order to make American nationals liable for the federal income tax when the national government was denied and deprived of such power by the United States Supreme Court in Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Company, 157 U.S. 429,
1895. Now run that back. It says 26 CFR 1.87 reflects the deception by the use of a statutory election of a voluntary nature in order to make American nationals liable for the federal income tax. Oh, so when you register to vote, that's what makes you a registered voter, and now you're liable to pay taxes because you're a registered voter. So I got to rescind that voter's registration card, because I was only using that as a way to like, okay, well now they know me and my righteous name, and I got evidence that they acknowledge me in my righteous name, but that wasn't really a good thing to do. Now that I know this, I'm gonna have to rescind that contract. I'm gonna say, listen, I want to rescind this voter's registration. I don't wish to participate anymore, and whatever. And once they send me a verification, okay, yes, we revoked it. You're no longer to, you can reapply if you like to in the future and all that good stuff. Okay, great. You know what I'm saying? As long as y'all rescinded that contract. So then I'm no longer liable to be a taxpayer because I'm registered as a voter. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, they said they use the whole statutory election as a voluntary nature because, like, you volunteer to do it. They ain't forcing you. You know what I'm saying? That's how they try to trick you. They're not forcing you, but they make it seem like, oh yeah, stop the violence and vote. You need to get out here and vote. You know what I'm saying? So once you become a voter, then you're liable to pay taxes. And then whatever you vote for, then they got the secret electoral colleges in the background, which are private colleges that make private votes over the public vote. So they fool you into thinking by voting you're making a change, but you're not actually making a change. They just sucker you into being liable to pay taxes. You know what I'm saying? And that's all that is. And then it's like and then as a taxpayer, you be like, my tax dollars are going to pay for this and that and blah 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 blah. No, your taxpayers are going in the dollars of the fucking state pocket. You know what I'm saying? Your tax dollars are going into the pockets of the state. You know what I'm saying? That's where the hell it's going to. You know what I mean? It ain't going to fix no roads. Because look at the roads in the community. Them shits got potholes in it for the longest time. Yet everybody's paying property taxes, right? You know what I'm saying? So why ain't nothing getting fixed in your community? Exactly. See, so that's just all a bunch of bull. So understand what's really going on, y'all.
1895. 2. The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment written by former POTUS William H. Taft on June 16, 1909, documents the limited jurisdiction for the national government to levy the federal income tax only upon itself. The federal income tax cannot and does not extend into the jurisdiction of the current 50 states of the Union.
Wow. Did you hear that? The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment written by former POTUS William H. Taft on June 16, 1909, documents the limited jurisdiction for the national government to levy the federal income tax income tax only upon itself. So meaning like, you know what I'm saying, the federal, they supposed to be the ones paying the fucking federal income tax. But what they do is they got all of our straw mans in the Federal Reserve Bank, and they're basically holding our fucking all of our accounts hostage. And you know who does that through they specifically? Amazon. Amazon runs through a company called Fedwire. So Amazon is the feds, you know what I'm saying? Literally, you know what I mean? Yeah, y'all niggas gonna get at me like, yo, you keep talking about Amazon, show fuck me. Fuck y'all niggas, man. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Amazon is the feds. They run through Fedwire. That's how they got companies like that, ACH, automatic house clearance housing, and all that shit, and and you pay your bills through your social security number and all of that, and blah, 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 all that. Yeah. Because it's all connected. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so like I just said, you know what I'm saying? So the federal income tax cannot and does not extend into the jurisdiction of the current 50 states. So why are they taking federal taxes out of our check, out of our income, out of our check and out of our income tax? So basically we're not even supposed to be paying federal taxes, only so-called state taxes if we choose to contract within the state. So why are we paying federal taxes? You know what I mean? So it says by ignoring the rule of appointment, the only operational jurisdiction for application of the federal income tax is the District of Columbia and the U.S. territories. So it says the only operational jurisdiction for application of the federal income tax is the District of Columbia and the U.S. territories. So the federal tax only supposed to apply to the District of Columbia and the U.S. territories. So now, like I say, but if we're defining ourselves as American nationals, not U.S. citizens, that means we live on the land of America. We don't live within the jurisdiction of the United States territories, nor the District of Columbia. We are American nationals living on the land of America. You know what I'm saying? Not within the commercial jurisdiction known as the district, or the political jurisdiction known as the District of Columbia, or the commercial jurisdiction known as the United States territories, you know what I mean, or union states, you know what I mean, because, and that's another thing too, they are a union within themselves too. They are a union, a labor union, the union states. So, you know, you got to understand that whole science as well. So let's continue.
Revocation of election established by the U.S. Congress. 7. Public record of revocation of election per 26 U.S.C. Section 63. G. As evidence that the national government cannot keep sovereign American nationals so entrapped by the use of a statutory election created by filing of a federal income tax return in perpetuity, the national government has devised in its statutes a path for American nationals referred to by the national government as non-resident alien individuals to exit, depart, and terminate forever the federal income tax scheme by use of 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G4A, termination of election by taxpayer.
Pause. Did y'all hear that? That was the bomb right there. Section G right there just dropped a bomb. It just says, as evidence that the national government cannot keep sovereign American nationals, if that's how you define yourself, so entrapped by the use of a statutory election created by filing of the federal income tax return in perpetuity, the national government has devised in its statutes a path meaning a remedy. There's a remedy. If you don't want to pay taxes as an American national, there's a remedy. You don't have to pay taxes as a U.S. citizen. There's a path or a remedy for American nationals referred by the national government as non-alien individual. So now when I show you this next form after this might be a little long, y'all, but it's worth it, y'all. This information is worth it. Y'all need to be paying attention to this shit. You know what I'm saying? Even though I know it's kind of long sometimes, but like, what the fuck? What is an hour of your life to get some information that could change the rest of your life? You could stop paying taxes just from getting information in this video. How about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? So anyway, let's go. So the government has non-alien individuals to exit, depart, and terminate forever the federal income tax scheme. They even telling you what's a scheme by the use of 26 U.S. 6013 G 4A, termination of election by taxpayer. So as a so-called taxpayer or a former taxpayer, you can terminate the election. You can say, yo, I'm not down with that election. I ain't had nothing to do with that. That was some private shit y'all did in the private sector. We ain't have nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? So as American nationals, we are not obligated to pay this tax. And it says in 26 USC 6013 G4A, termination of election by taxpayer. So we're going to terminate that. We're going to rescind that contract. We're going to terminate that election. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you have every right to do so. It's right there in their statutes. I just told you, as evidence that the government can't keep American sovereigns, nationals, so entrapped by the use of a statutory election created by filing of an federal income tax return in perpetuity. They have devised a plan, a path for American nationals referred to by the national government as, non-residential alien individuals. So if you don't use the term American national, sovereign American national, because, you know, when you use that term sovereign, they go into the whole sovereign citizen stuff, and they try, oh, you want these sovereign citizens, and you're belligerent to the law and all that bullshit. No. Use their term. How Malcolm X said, you got to take everything the white man says and use it against them. Yo, facts, man, because, you know, truth be told, you know, this country has done a lot of lying. They've been lying. So you got to take that shit and use it against them. So anyway, so use the term non-residential alien individual. Use that term. Instead of saying sovereign American national, say non-residential alien individual. And, you know, you're using this form and that statute to show the fact that you're going to exit, depart, terminate forever the federal income tax. So now, look, I think I kind of emphasized that, and I know they're going to say some more important stuff I'm going to break down, but I'm going to try to stop pausing it so much and whatnot. But I think y'all get the general gist of this. You know what I mean? So let's go.
Taxpayer. H. The United States Department of the Treasury, an agency of the national government, is directly complicit in the statutory election scheme as stipulated in its statutes at 31 USC Section 321 D1 and D.
Pardon. Yes. See, like, look, in those statutes, they tell you that this shit is a scheme, basically. You know what I'm saying? And that it was some, finagle type stuff. And it's voluntary. You don't have to get down with it if you don't want to.
D2, by clearly stating the federal income tax is nothing more than a gift or bequest of personal property, money, of an American national to and for the use of the United States, meaning the national government.
Right.
This statement eliminates the exposure of the national government to legal action against the government by making the.
So in other words, when they force the U.S. when they force the American nationals or the non-resident alien individuals into paying taxes, they try to make it seem like it was a gift or a bequest, as if like, well, hey, they voluntarily chose to pay this tax, so we accept it as a gift, not as some kind of like you want a payroll or some kind of, you have to pay this, but they accept it as a gift. And then when you get your tax return, you look at that as like a gift. It ain't no damn gift. They just giving back what they took from you. You know what I'm saying? But we be like, yo, I'm about to get my tax return. Yeah, boy, I'm about to be balling. So I'm about to get that tax return. And we think it's like something special. No, that's you just getting back what they took from you. You know what I'm saying? And then when they give you that, they gonna tax that too, which is even further fraud. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only did you just try to play it off like, oh, you accepted a gift and then you just gifted it back, then you're going to tax me on top of that? Nigga, that's where some extra fraud comes in. Like, God damn, these motherfuckers is greedy. See what I'm saying? Like, they just don't know when to stop. But since you accepted it, it just makes it seem like, oh, hey, this is the norm. This is how it goes. And, hey, you don't have no problem with it. You've been filing taxes every year. What's the problem? Like, what? What's wrong? You know what I'm saying? What's wrong is I know the truth now, and I'm going to correct the wrong and make it right. That's what it is.
The election voluntary, and then declaring that the money paid for the tax is nothing but a gift or bequest at the same time.
Right. See, so they try to say, oh, no, it was nothing but a gift. They gave us a gift. They paid taxes. Hey, that was their choice. They gave us a gift. That's how they try to accept it, like, and play it off. Because, when you accept gifts, a gift is a gift. Someone give you a gift, like, yo, you don't have to pay them back. You don't have to give it back. It was a gift. Yo, you gave me this as a gift. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. So they try to make it seem like when you pay taxes, that it was a gift. No. Because if you don't pay taxes, don't they come and get you for tax evasion and try to come down on you and audit you? And then they try to make you and force you to pay the taxes and all of that. Or they're going to fine you some money and make you pay fines and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And then try to charge you some more money for the fact that you didn't want to file with them. See, so that's the threat, duress, and coercion. That makes you feel like, oh, well, I have to pay. I have to file my taxes. If I don't, man, they're going to say I'm tax evasion. But see, when you terminate that election, you're not doing tax evasion. You're doing tax avoidance. You're not evading paying taxes. You have the right not to. So therefore, you can avoid taxes. Tax avoidance, not tax evasion. I'm not teaching anybody tax evasion. And let me put my disclaimer. None of this is legal advice. This is all for entertainment and educational purposes only. And if you shall need a lawyer, I suggest you seek a competent attorney. You know what I'm saying? Who's only going to turn you over to the jurisdiction of the court, because that's what their job is to do. But anyway, there's another path or route or remedy. And this is the path, the route, and the remedy.
Time. The national government's use of statutory words is purposely obtuse for many sovereign American nationals not trained in the art of legalese.
Right.
The statutes are written in such a manner to allow the American nationals to by default use their own definition of non-statutory words to be misinterpreted as having the same meaning as to what the national government defines their statutory words to mean.
Wow, you heard that? See? So in other words, they have what's called legalese, meaning the words that we use in common language, we think they're just common words and we use them in a common social sense. No. Those words, that's why you got to get a legal dictionary, like a Black Law's Dictionary, Bouvier's Dictionary, and all that, to understand the definition of legal terms. You know what I mean? Like a delivery, you know what I mean? You know what a delivery is? You think like, oh yeah, like I get my food delivered all the time. Yeah, that's a form of delivery, but in legal terminology, a delivery is when a baby is being born and the mother, when she has the baby and the baby is coming from the mother's womb over to the doctor. Root word of doctor is dock, just like a ship pulls into the dock, and then they come and get the goods off the dock, and then they write up an inventory sheet for the goods. When the doctor takes the baby and clips the cord, just like you got the anchor of the ship, you pull the anchor out, the long cord, the rope you put down to keep the ship at bay, you know what I'm saying? That's symbolic to the umbilical cord and the baby. And once it hands over to the doctor clips the cord and says, fuck you, bitch, this is my baby now. I'm going to write up an inventory sheet known as a birth certificate, and I'm going to hand it over to the Department of Vital Statistics, and we're going to sit your child in its name and with your signature on it because you agreed to it, and we're going to now label your child as state property. We own your baby now. And if you mistreat this child in any kind of way, CPS is coming and we're going to take your child and we're going to take you to court and blah, 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 and all this other bullshit because we have right to be in your life and your personal business because we fucking own you. Slavery is still in existence to this day. See? And this is just all the technical terminology that they use to cover it up. So it doesn't seem like slavery. Like, what do you mean? No, we're free. We have the right. Man, this system is slavery. So this is what you got to see and understand. And but like I say, there's ways that, like I say, in the 13th Amendment, slavery is outlawed, but voluntary servitude is not voluntary servitude. Or I'm talking about involuntary servitude, so whatever the fuck it says, involuntary or voluntary servitude, indentured servitude, indentured servitude is not outlawed. So like I said, basically when you go to jail, you become an indentured servant, which is a slave. 12 years a slave, 5 years a slave, however long that the fucking judge give you. You know what I'm saying? You be a slave for that long. You know what I'm saying? To the fucking system. And then even when you get out, you're still a slave. Listen, let me try to finish this thought.
This presumption has proven to be a successful ruse by those in government who are willing to entrap their countrymen. J. As a result of the convoluted semantic gamesmanship of words defined by the U.S. Congress, the path to escape the entanglement of American nationals into being identified statutorily as taxpayers of the federal income tax was discovered at 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, 4A.
Right. So in other words, they try, like I said, they try to use all the tricky language, which they, and also understand this too. Their language that they use, the words they have, different definitions for what we may see them as. And they also have these words patented. So they have a patented language. So when you go in there speaking their, even if you know their legalese, even when you start speaking their legalese is a patented, copyrighted language. So even when you go in there thinking like, yeah, I know the laws, I know their language, I know how to speak their language and all that, all you're doing is speaking their patented language as well. So they still gonna get you, even though you thinking you smart and you know the words and the terminologies and all that and It's a big trap, y'all. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a big trap. You know what I'm saying? So regardless, because once you get in there and you just open your mouth, that's subject matter jurisdiction. You know what I'm saying? So regardless of whom or what, in some way, shape, or form, they're going to have jurisdiction if you're in that court. So, you know, we be talking about all that, come by special visitation, special, and all that special visitation, all of that, Yeah, I hear that, but once you show up, it's a different ball game.
This revocation of election is now implemented by in order to extricate himself forever from any obligation created by the former sub silentio election. K. The existence of lawful non-taxpayers, as related to the Internal Revenue Code of 1954, is described in two specific federal documents. 1. The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment, written by former POTUS William H. Taft on June 16, 1909, was promulgated in the Congressional Record of the United States Senate on pages 3344 to 3345. This foundational document proves that the federal income tax, as we know it today, was never lawfully designed to be levied upon American nationals. In fact, the power of the national government to do so was specifically denied to the government. American nationals were protected from the national government attempting to include them as being the subject and the object of those federal statutory and regulatory laws. 2. Economy, Plumbing, and Heating v. U.S. 470 F2D, 1972, in which this appellate court declared the existence of two groups related to the federal income tax. Those groups are taxpayers and lawful non-taxpayers. Those American nationals, the lawful non-taxpayers, were stated by this federal court to be neither the subject nor the object of federal revenue laws.
Pause. Right. So it said in the U.S. 470 F2D, whatever, the hearing of economy, plumbing, and heating versus U.S. It was stated that there's two different taxpayers, the lawful taxpayers and the lawful non-taxpayers. I mean the taxpayers and the lawful non-taxpayers, and those American nationals are the lawful non-taxpayers. So basically, and it was stated that they are not subject nor object of federal revenue laws. So the federal revenue laws is what? The Internal Revenue Service, IRS. So who's the ones trying to tax you or try to say you're tax evading? IRS, right? So basically we're not subject to the IRS. American nationals not subject to the IRS. So this form is what makes you become tax exempt. Now we're about to get into the form. And the form is basically like a reiteration of what they just stated up there, you know what I'm saying? And so it says I'm gonna read it out. Hold up. Come on, man. I'm stacking up now, man. Anyway, let it be known, fully established by presentment of this personal testimony that such and such, John Doe expresses his or her desire to formally terminate the former statutory election via revocation of election via this form here. So I guess this is kind of like a cover page. This is like a cover page to the letter right here. So to the form.
Let it be lawfully established by the presentment of this personal testimony that expresses his desire to formally terminate the former statutory election via revocation of election. Revocation by taxpayer, non-resident alien individual meaning American national, who by a prior sub silentio government act made an election to have their earnings treated or taxed like that of a resident alien, now expressly states the desire to lawfully terminate or end the prior election via the statutory process of revocation of election.
Right.
26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G4, addresses termination of election with a pertinent section at 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G4A, revocation by taxpayer. This statutory section stipulates that an election under this subsection shall terminate at the earliest of the following times. The earliest time means 2 nanoseconds after IRS receipt of affidavit.
Right. See, so in other words, you send this affidavit to the IRS. So when the IRS, and I was thinking that too, where do I send this to? They told you, you send it to the IRS. So once the IRS receives this, and there's other places too, you got to send this to some other places too. And I was reading in the I'll probably do a part 2 on this, and I'll get that information as well. But definitely the IRS. Send this affidavit or your writ in lieu of the revocation of election. You know what I'm saying? Then once they receive it, two nanoseconds after they receive it, it's in effect. You know what I'm saying? So basically, that's all you got to do. You got to draw this up and send it to them. This is like the cover page. Wherever you see the blacked out marks, that's where your name's supposed to be, or whatever personal information.
Does hereby expressly state his desire to terminate the election made years ago via the congressionally created statutes in 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G. Even though the statutory election was never stated openly prior to that election, his desire to terminate the election is now clearly stated to those appropriate IRS operational personnel, IRS management, IRS Chief Legal Counsel, and the IRS Commissioner. As stipulated at 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G4A, he now declares forevermore that he has exercised the option to terminate the election, and upon receipt is no longer identified as one taxable like a resident alien. According to the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 statutes promulgated at 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G6, only one election, one finds expressed in this particular statute that if any election under this subsection is terminated under paragraph 4, termination of election, A, revocation by taxpayers, that such individuals shall be ineligible to make an election under this subsection for any subsequent taxable year. Thus, once a termination of election occurs, which is the purpose of this testimony properly submitted to the IRS Commissioner, et al., that can never again make an election to become a taxpayer in the future. Federal Appeals Court Second Circuit. The Federal Court decision in Economy Plumbing and Heating v. U.S. 470 F2D 19.
Now, part of stuff. Now they just put that right there is what you call a case law. Economy Plumbing versus Heating. Economy Plumbing and Heating versus U.S. 470 F2D. 1972, that's a case law. So, Supreme Court cases is founded on, the precedence is held on case law. So whoever has the most current and relevant case law would hold more standing in the case to have the favor of the decision. You know what I mean? So, this right here is like a good case law that they put in there. I just want to throw that out there, because this case law is also part of the affidavit, or the writ in lieu of the affidavit for revocation of election. That's what the title of it's going to be. At least that's what mine is. Because I understand why it's like that, as I explained in the beginning.
1972 stated the existence of both lawful taxpayers and lawful non-taxpayers. Revenue laws relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers. The latter are without their scope. No procedures are prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights or remedies in due course of law. With them, non-taxpayers, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither of the subject nor of the object of federal revenue laws. Emphasis and clarification added. now reaffirms the desire and expressed intent to revert back to his rightful status of an American national who is neither of the subject nor of the object of federal revenue laws. Revocation of election established by the U.S. Congress. 9. Public record of revocation of election per 26. Let it be established by this testimony the express purpose of
so-and-so, whatever your name is a sovereign American national, or you could change it to non-resident, or you could put, I'm going to put in parentheses, non-resident alien national. You know what I mean? And, you know, blah, blah, blah. So now after they just explained all that stuff, now they just basically put it in that above with just a cover letter for this form. So this is now the actual form, revocation. So everywhere you see the black spot, that's your name or whatever personal information you're asking for to be there. So now it says, let it be established by testimony of the express
revocation
purpose.
of election. 1. Is a sovereign American national and became so by I. Birth in one of the 50 states of the Union. 2. Birth to one or both parents who were born in the 50 states of the Union, or 3. Naturalization. 2. He is not subject to the territorial jurisdiction of the statutory United States, the District of Columbia, as a result of birth in one of the 50 states of the Union, the Constitutional Republic. I. He is an American national who is non-resident, geographically and statutorily speaking, to the District of Columbia. He is also alien to the legislative jurisdiction of the U.S. Congress, who creates legislative acts without direct reference to the actual jurisdiction. Congressional laws are of limited jurisdiction.
Right.
The Supreme Court declared, all federal statutes and regulations applies only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States, the District of Columbia, unless a contrary intent appears.
Ooh, see how they just reiterated all, like I said, that's why I didn't want to go through all of those 3-4 other pages, because I'm like, yo, they basically just reiterating a lot of the stuff that's written in this section here. So see how they summing up a lot of that stuff that we read up above, and they putting it in short, concise little paragraphs in statutes. I mean, you know, they mention in the statutes and the case laws and so forth, making it nice and concise. You know what I'm saying? So that affidavit is the bomb. It's like, yo, once they read that, it's like, yo, how could they deny any of this? And it's coming right out of their own statutes. They created this remedy, this path, as they call it, for you. So it's like they can't deny this. This is not going to be denied at all. They have to accept this. And it gave you this thing here. Well, this website, they gave you this document. So that's why I said to revise this, make it a writ in lieu of the revocation of election, and add some more stuff onto it and so forth and so forth. So therefore you're not infringing upon their copyrighted material. You know what I'm saying? You do have the option to use it, but like I said, if you're going to use it, you're going to have to change it up and so forth, and, you know, switch around some things and so forth. And or I think you can also email Westlaw, because I think this is created by Westlaw, and basically ask them for permission or put them on notice that you're going to use their copywritten material. That's the same thing you're supposed to do with the UCCs if you use the UCCs and whatnot. I don't use those, but that's what I learned by somebody that was putting me on to that a long time ago. So peace.
Appears. 3. He is a sovereign American national, is not subject to the statutory laws promulgated for use in the exclusive and limited jurisdiction of the District of Columbia, the seat of the national government. Furthermore, being a sovereign American national, he is not referenced or included in any statutory laws related to the federal income tax created by the U.S. Congress. 4. He cannot be compelled, goaded, or presumed to associate with the national government, which would be a direct violation of the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act and the 13th Amendment to the Constitution outlawing slavery and involuntary servitude in the 50 states. 5. The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment to the Constitution clearly states that the federal income tax was only levied upon the national government, meaning those who choose to work for it.
Right.
The narrow jurisdictional application.
Right. That's why I say we're not supposed to be paying federal taxes, only state taxes if we choose the contract within the state. You know what I'm saying? Or even with the state. Like if you got a job that works for the state or whatever that you live in or whatever, that would be a job where you'd be, you know, obligated, I guess, to pay state taxes. But other jobs where you're working for private corporations or whatever, then, you know, of course, you don't have to pay taxes necessarily. You know, but public corporations may be under public policies and blah, 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 or under this false election, this ex silencio, sub silencio, meaning it was done on the down low in the quiet election. You know what I'm saying?
Application of the federal income tax is evident due to the amendment to the constitutional requirement of apportionment based on census, as would be required of any direct tax. The Congressional Act of the 16th Amendment avoids this limitation in the Constitution by only applying the amendment to the jurisdiction of the District of Columbia, the statutory United States. The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment acknowledges that former POTUS William H. Taft on June 16, 1909 recognized this territorial limitation for the levy of the federal income tax. The legislative intent of the 16th Amendment can be located in the Congressional Record of the United States Senate on pages 3344 to 3345. 6. He does not derive any income that is effectively connected with the conduct of a statutory trade or business within the District of Columbia. Has no physical or statutory federal domicile within the District of Columbia. Revocation of election established by the U.S. Congress. 10. Public record of revocation of election per 26 U.S.C. Section 7. The national government and its Bureau, the Internal Revenue Service, lacks both geographical and legislative jurisdiction to apply the federal income tax upon American nationals according to the legislative intent of the 16th Amendment. The U.S. Supreme Court and the Office of the Federal Register and the enacted federal tax laws presented have never been made liable for the federal income tax by enacted federal law except via the sub silentio election based on presumptions of its existence. 8. He has discovered the statutory option provided by the U.S. Congress at 26 U.S.C. Section 6013 G and its subsections, and does now revoke the election that was the etiology of the infectious financial statutory disease that has resulted in lost compensation for my labor over many years, created by the national government. This revocation of election hereby made by is effective immediately and is presented to the Office of the IRS Commissioner, et al., within the Bureau of the Internal Revenue Service. 2. As a result, the Internal Revenue Service has been effectively noticed of the revocation of election, and that per 26 U.S.C. Section 6013 G6, the revocation of election is now permanent. 1. Never again can he be coerced, compelled, or goaded back into the nefariously created statutory scheme of the national government. He must now be properly identified by those within the Internal Revenue Service as one who is a lawful non-taxpayer, and that the scope of the statutory revenue laws within Title 26 are not applicable toward him. The Internal Revenue Service now recognizes by the revocation of election that he is neither the subject nor the object of federal revenue laws.
Oh, that's some fire right there, man. That's straight fire right there. You know what I'm saying? When they get this, which they're aware of, you know what I'm saying? They're aware of this document. I ain't gonna be the first one to send this to them. They're aware of this document. But it's just so ill just to hear it written, you know what I mean? Like when they read this shit, they're gonna be like, God damn. How could we dare possibly challenge this? It's our own shit. Like, yeah, man. So let's go.
Laws. 9. The Internal Revenue Service is now formally notified of the revocation of election by, and there can be no further discussion as to his ever being liable for making a federal income tax return. The IRS records and databases must now reflect this termination of election, and all Chapter 24 withholdings must cease for all time in compliance. Revocation of election is now legally established. Has now properly followed the statutory instructions at 26 U.S.C. Section.
And that just said the IRS database is now on, reflect this termination of election, and all Chapter 24 withholdings must cease for all claim and competence. So we might want to check out Chapter 24 of the Internal Revenue Service codes or whatever, because I guess that states about certain withholdings or things that they're withholding or have the ability to withhold. So within that chapter, maybe you want to examine that and see like, oh shit, I didn't know this is why I haven't been getting they've been holding this shit. Oh shit. And this is their statute to why they able to do that. Okay, well, I'm revoking all of that. So y'all got to release them funds. You know what I'm saying? Word up. So the IRS is holding some funds or whatever. You figure out what that is or whatever it is. When you revoke all of that shit, they got to release them funds because it's stated here in your affidavit. You know what I'm saying? Which they are going to comply to. So they don't want to get into a court with all this federal statute and all of it. Like, man, they not trying to challenge all of that. Constitution, case laws, all of that evidence in there. They ain't trying to challenge that.
Section 6013 G4A, as created by the U.S. Congress in ending his former participation in the federal income taxation scheme, which was initially established by a sub silentio election. Congress and the IRS, now by statutory requirement, recognizes his unalienable rights as a lawful non-taxpayer of the congressional income taxation statutes and regulations.
Pardon. They just said Congress and the IRS. So think about it. Could it be that the Congress and the IRS are working together in conspiracy to keep this scheme or fraud going on? But anyway, I'll ask a hypothetical question.
Regulations. Further says not. Revocation of election established by the U.S. Congress. 11 Public Record of Revocation of Election per 26 U. Under the laws of the United States of America, the Constitutional Republic, which is without the statutory United States, the District of Columbia, and in accordance with 28 U.S.C. 1746, 1, in order to be as precise as possible, does hereby state the following.
Goddamn. Under the laws of the United States of America, the Constitutional Republic, for which it stands, without the statutory United States. See the difference? They just define a difference too. Under the laws of the United States of America, the Constitutional Republic, like the real America, so-called, you know what I mean? Which is without the statutory United States, the District of Columbia, because that's where their statutes come from. Like I said, the District of Columbia is the political jurisdiction, and then the United States are the commercial jurisdictions that are able to enforce the policies coming from the political jurisdiction known as the District of Columbia. So in accordance with 28 U.S. Code 1746, in order to be precise and possible, does hereby state the following. You know what I mean? And yeah.
Following. I declare or affirm by penalty of perjury, without the statutory United States, that the above and foregoing representations, federal laws, and attachments are true and correct to the best of my knowledge, understanding, and belief.
Yeah, so basically that's like what you call a jurat, you know what I mean? But see, in my jurat, I'm taking out that affirm under penalty of perjury shit, because for one, it ain't nothing you saying in here is lying, so they're not going to be able to hold you under no penalty of perjury. But I'm not even going to state the fact that there's a penalty of perjury, you know what I'm saying, even without the United States, without the statutory United States, you know what I'm saying? Because the whole fact of the matter that penalty of perjury is a statute within itself, or it is a form of like, you know, you agreeing to be penalized in some kind of way by if they deem you to be saying something wrong or whatever case may be. Like, no, I'm not even putting myself under that sword. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't no sword above my head. Y'all the motherfuckers with the sword above y'all head. And when I filed this shit, this is putting the sword above y'all head to let y'all know y'all need to stop the funny business and stop all that tax fraud. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not putting no sword above my head. I'm not gonna, after I stated all of that, see, this is the tricky stuff too. After you stated all of that, then you turn around and put yourself under penalty of perjury as if you're liable to be caught lying. No. X that out. All that penalty of perjury shit, X that out. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, continue with your documentation. And also too, when it comes to now, they're going to ask you the mailing address and so forth. And look, peep this. In their day, see, because they even understand the science, man. They even know that they are operating under the color of law, meaning the appearance of law. So even in their language, it's very clear how they put in things. Like, see how it says American national with inalienable rights. And then it says for mailing address, it says, you put your name here. And then it says, parts of the address there, it says near but not in 77328 or whatever, the zip code, you put your zip code. So, but when you put near but not in, it's meaning saying round and about somewhere around the area what they define as 11 as 77328 or whatever, like that so-called area code. Like, I'm not in that area code. I'm not subject or to that jurisdiction. I'm not putting myself within that jurisdictional, realm. So therefore they state near but not in, the zip code, near but not in 77328, you know what I mean? And then you put the social here. And now when I put the social, I'm gonna put the social with, I'm gonna put it in 3 different ways. I'm gonna put the social, 123-45-6789, you know what I'm saying? Then I'm gonna put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with no dashes. Then I'm gonna put 1, 2 dash 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know what I'm saying? Just using those generic numbers, not to put my own social out there, of course, you know what I mean? But so yeah, so for the social, you know what I'm saying? The reason why I'm gonna put it in those different forms, because those 3 different forms are different ways they break up that number for different accounts. So I want all of those accounts to be tax exempt. You know what I'm saying? Not just the one, the common one they give you out in the public, which is the 123-45-6789. That's the generic one. The one that's the public one. The private one is the one without dashes. And then how they make a 98 number or 82 number with the EIN. So then you put 12 dash 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, once again, this is not legal advice. This is what I'm going to do. And this for educational purposes only, you know what I'm saying? Entertainment purposes only. But, you know what I'm saying? So, that's what I know. So that's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody tell me what the motherfucker do. That's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. And so, yeah. So all of those accounts are tax exempt. And, and I might even put some other account numbers up there too, like the number on your ID. That's another account. The red numbers on your birth certificate, those QSEP numbers, those are other accounts. You know what I'm saying? But then again, X those last 2 things I just said, because I'm not sure on that, and I don't want to put any misinformation and have you do something that's not right. X those last 2 things I just said out. You know, say X that out. That's for my own personal. That's not for y'all, anybody. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so and like I said, and then also too with the notary, we don't do necessarily just regular notaries. We do a notary attestation where the notary is going to simply attest to the fact that they've seen you and whatever witnesses autograph this document. You know what I mean? And they're going to write on a separate piece of paper. So so this part you leave separate for the notary or whatever, for them to to do so and so forth. All right, so let me not run this too long, y'all. It's already been about 1 hour and 10 minutes now, so I'm gonna shut this down. So yeah, and that's to the end of it anyway. So there it is, y'all. Revocation of election, man. You know what I'm saying? You do not have to pay taxes. They admitted that it's a fraud. It's in their statutes, it's in the case laws, it's in the Constitution. It's all drawn up in this affidavit, which you're going to revise into a writ in lieu of affidavit for revocation of election. You know what I'm saying? A writ in lieu of affidavit for revocation of election. You know what I'm saying? And so forth and so forth. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. You know what I mean? And so like I said, when I put my information, I might put my, the name of my international organization, the name of my trust, the name of my independent contracting, what would be called a business, but I say independent contracting, and all that in there, just to let them know that all of those entities are also fall under this revocation of election. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm operating through those entities, I'm operating as an independent contractor who is a non-resident alien national, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it is, y'all. So on that note, y'all say peace. And you know what I mean? I'll see y'all on the next one, y'all. Peace. Hope y'all got some good information and all that, man. Oh, that's what I didn't mention. Of course, I just showed y'all how to do this. But if you want, I have templates that I can send you as well. You know what I'm saying? Shoot me your email in the messenger or whatever, and I can send you the template so you can basically draw it up for yourself and send it to the IRS via registered mail. So you can have the receipt with your own registered mail filing number and all of that. So you know that they're in receipt of it. You know, things of that nature. Also, you know how when you send it certified mail and whatnot, they send you with the little green strips back. So that way you know that they received it. And, you know, once they receive it. And they also tell you in other parts of this document that it's a certain time period. Like once they have it in their possession for like over 180 days or something like that, then that should be more than enough time for them to be aware or notice and have had acquiesced or agreed to everything written in your documentation. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, oh yeah, don't forget this cover letter part up here too, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to draw this up and finish this up and add that to my documents as well. This was the cover page, the cover letter. So yeah, so like I say, hit me up if you want the template and all of that. You know what I mean? If you want to build on it, you want more clarification and so forth, y'all. That's what I do, man. Peace.